It's been a very rough 48 hours for me personally, and if you want to see why, you could go take a look at my Instagram story, and that's all I'm going to say about that. But for those of you guys that have been with me on this journey, I want to give you a huge shout out for your compassion, for you guys having my back. It's really nice to see that whenever I am dealing with a personal problem, that you guys aren't saying that's a personal problem, go deal with it on your own. I appreciate the outpouring of support, so shout out to Mike Mafia. But last night, when I was making my Meek Mill video, which, by the way, this is going to be our third video on this channel in 24 hours, fourth video in total. When I was making my Meek Mill video, there was some information that just dropped about Quinn Cook getting cut. And I was going to make a video on Quinn Cook's release. And then I found out that another thing was trending, and that was Demarcus Cousins. And I wanted to make a video right then and there because Demarcus Cousins has been linked to the Lakers since the moment of his rumored release that was given to us just this past Saturday. But guys, there's just so much more than what we originally thought, so that's why I made this video. So do me a favor and slap a like on the like button to help this channel grow. Every like really helps us in the algorithm. And now that we got all that out of the way, cue the intro. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? So this past Saturday, we made a video on Demarcus Cousins being potentially released. It wasn't like the day he got released. I originally titled it that Demarcus Cousins will be released, and then we found out that the Rockets and him are planning to part ways. And then today was the day that Demarcus Cousins officially got bought out and hit the free agency market. And like a good Laker fan would, I immediately drew the conclusion that the Los Angeles Lakers are going to go out and sign Demarcus Cousins. After all, it made a lot of sense. Last year, we had Demarcus Cousins on the roster, and he was supposed to be a huge part of our offense. Nevertheless, what happened then was Demarcus Cousins, after making his way back from a horrifying Achilles injury, which is already known to be a basketball talent killer, unless if you happen to be Kevin Durant. After making his way back from an Achilles injury, playing with the Golden State Warriors, and then finally joining the Los Angeles Lakers, which gave him a remarkable opportunity not only to compete for a championship, but to rehabilitate his value as a superstar center that could eventually earn big money in the NBA once again. Well, Demarcus Cousins was playing some pickup ball and he tore his ACL. And once again, he had to go through the whole process all over again with the basketball talent killer of the early to late 2000s, which isn't nearly as gruesome nowadays, but when you combine that with an Achilles tear, that is just really, really rough. Now, at that point last year, the Los Angeles Lakers around February decided to part ways with Demarcus Cousins as a result of all of this, which made sense. They wanted to be players in the buyout market. Markieff Morris was definitely going to be more valuable to them in the long run for a potential NBA Finals push than Demarcus Cousins would be cheering on the bench. It makes a lot of sense. But when Demarcus Cousins was released by the Los Angeles Lakers, it was known and it was said multiple times that the Lakers would welcome back Demarcus Cousins potentially with open arms at some point next year. And well, now that it's next year and Demarcus Cousins is once again a free agent and Anthony Davis is out with an injury, and the Lakers could use a slight upgrade over Marc Gasol, a sweet shooting big man that could stretch the floor, that still has the ability to turn the clock back. Bear in mind, Demarcus Cousins had a 28-point double-double just a few weeks ago. It just seemed like a perfect scenario. Just like signing with the Houston Rockets and reuniting with his buddy from Kentucky University, John Wall, was also a perfect scenario. But unfortunately, nothing has come easy for Demarcus Cousins. You see, the Los Angeles Lakers last night cut Quinn Cook, and after that, we immediately drew the conclusion that, hey, the Lakers are getting ready to make a run at Demarcus Cousins. It just makes sense. He already knows how we run our offense. LeBron James was playing NBA 2K earlier last year and was running pick and pop plays with Demarcus Cousins and pick and rolls with Anthony Davis. It just makes so much sense. He already has familiarity with Anthony Davis. He already was a Laker last year. It just perfect sense. We could use a center. We could use a big man. Unfortunately, that's not what's in the cards for us. Not only does it apparently not make sense from the Lakers standpoint, and this is a rumor, but Demarcus Cousins isn't rumored to be interested as well.
What the fuck?
Now, the very first thing you need to know is the reason why Demarcus Cousins was released. It wasn't necessarily that the Rockets wanted a younger front court, which I'm sure that had something to do with it. However, it had more to do with the fact that Demarcus Cousins didn't want to be a role player. He didn't want to come off of the bench, and I don't blame him. How could he? 4 years ago, this was a top 3, if not the best center in the NBA. This was a player that we were losing our minds over when the Sacramento Kings had the audacity to trade him for Buddy Hield. In order to understand where Demarcus Cousins is going to go, you need to understand what Demarcus Cousins wants. And what Demarcus Cousins wants is a situation in which he can get a large amount of minutes, an extended amount of minutes and playing time to show the NBA once again that he is the all-star center that he once was. And I hope he does. I don't know how logical that is or how feasible that is, but I hope somehow, some way, this man that was robbed of $100 million plus is able to revive his value and rehabilitate his value and get the contract that he deserves. I also understand that from the Lakers' standpoint, they already have a big man that could shoot threes and stretch the floor. As a matter of fact, they have multiple. Kyle Kuzma, if you want to consider him in that tier, Marc Gasol, and really that's about it. Montrezl Harrell's way too undersized to play the center position, but on the Lakers depth chart, he is listed as a center. So it appears as though the Lakers are looking more for a rim protector. So there is a rumor that the Lakers are actually interested in Hassan Whiteside, which in my opinion is very logical because Demarcus Cousins wants more playing time. He doesn't necessarily care about competing for a championship ring at this point of his career because he did over the past 2 years. But at the same time, if you're an NBA team, what team makes sense for Demarcus Cousins? If he wants big minutes, where would he go to get big minutes? Because he's 30 years old. He's not young enough to be part of a rebuilding team's future. But at the same time, he is not good enough to help push a contender over the edge as a starting center, at least in my opinion. So it's very tricky trying to find Demarcus Cousins' fit in all this. Meanwhile, the Los Angeles Lakers are interested in Hassan Whiteside, but in my opinion, I think Hassan Whiteside is actually their backup plan. And if the Lakers really wanted Hassan Whiteside from the beginning, they could have easily cut Jared Dudley, Wesley Matthews, Quinn Cook, Marc Gasol, and went out to go ahead and get Hassan Whiteside. If they wanted him, they would have had him already. But that's what news outlets are reporting. The Lakers are interested in a rim protecting big like Hassan Whiteside. What I personally think is the Lakers aren't going after Hassan Whiteside. The Lakers want Blake Griffin. They're waiting for Blake Griffin to get bought out, and that's the reason they cut Quinn Cook. They're waiting to see who is going to hit the buyout market so they could go ahead and pick him up and hopefully add him to the roster. I could be wrong. There's nowhere on the internet or in the world that's reporting that the Lakers cut Quinn Cook in order to get Blake Griffin. That is my own personal hunch. Most news outlets are saying that the Lakers are trying to get Hassan Whiteside and that the Lakers and Demarcus Cousins don't have mutual interest, but that is just a rumor as well. So let me know in the comment section down below. 1, where should Demarcus Cousins sign with? Do you think he could potentially go to the Brooklyn Nets because they desperately could use some added big man depth? Or do you think that he's just going to latch on to any team that could give him playing time, even if it happens to be the Detroit Pistons? Who do you think the Lakers are primarily targeting? If Hassan Whiteside and Blake Griffin hit the buyout market at the same time, who do you think gets priority? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.